All right, so I'm super excited. I ordered the Game Room Solutions 43-inch cabinet. It is the largest one they make, and I've started the process of putting it together. There have been some issues though, and the customer service has been kind of off and on, but they do get back eventually. But there were some issues, even just putting the console, the arcade controls console together here. You can see the cut isn't perfect, and there's some pretty big gaps, which is kind of a little disappointing to see here. So I wish they'd kind of work on the cuts a little bit better. But this is as good as I was able to get it. I actually had these two pieces here, these corner pieces, opposite, switched earlier, and the gaps were even larger. So I switched them, and they happened to fit a little bit better. So if you're ever putting this together, just try switching them and pick the arrangement that seems to work best. Same thing with these two end pieces. I had them switched when I first put it on, and the gap seemed a little bit larger. And they stuck out at the end here and left a gap, so this wasn't flush right here. So I switched these two, and it fit a lot better, and now this is flush. So keep that in mind. The instructions aren't super clear, although they do say swap them if anything seems a little bit off, and it turned out to be right. So I'm going to continue this process, try to get this T-molding on, and keep in mind I have never built pretty much anything before, so this is quite a project for me to take on. I even have some trouble with even just IKEA furniture, so hopefully if I can do this, anyone can do this. And you can see that, so that'll be the arcade console. And I'll show the side vinyl panels that I have for the cabinet itself once I get there. Unfortunately, the packing was a bit of an issue for this. So 5 of my pieces were actually damaged in shipping. So that was a bummer. So I'm waiting to get the replacements. They sent back 4 of the correct ones, but one of them was also not correct. So now I need to send them another message to get the correct piece. So there's been some issues here along the way. They're not the most organized, but they seem to be putting together a project that's pretty good. So hopefully it kind of gets better as I go along here. So I'm putting the T-molding on. I'm using just a box cutter to kind of start it here, and then I'll pull it out and kind of get a finger of where it is, and then I'll just grab the T-molding at that point, and I'll use the box cutter to just cut that piece there, and then the sides. It goes through pretty easy, and then you're able to just cut it using the box cutter. And when I put it in there, you can't really push it in with your finger as much, so I used a hammer to just tap it in, but you'll notice here on this side, as I did that, kind of looks like I probably hit it a little too hard, so just be careful when you're putting in the T-molding. You just want to tap it enough to go, but not too hard that you do any splitting there. So I'm having another situation here. I'm trying to put this piece with the 5 cam lock screws and nuts on, but if you look closely, this hole is off. The other ones seem to be okay, but this one is off, so wish me luck. Alright, so as you can see, I got the back piece on the console, but I had to get a drill, put my own drill bit on it, and drill a hole here in order to get the cam lock in. So I had to drill a hole because the hole was too far this way, so I had to drill a new hole in to get there, and then the cam lock was able to go in there. So I had to drill my own hole. So if you have a drill with a drill bit, you're probably going to need that because their holes are all off. But I was able to get it on. They attached the cam locks, and hopefully with the other cam locks there it'll hold. So there was an issue that we had to fix. And here's the first piece for the side. This is the first step. You put the cam locks in, And the instructions here, which are horrendous, tell you install the cam locks, 2 clips, and mending plates. That's all it says, and you'll see in the picture there's nothing showing you what you're supposed to do with the clips and the mending plates, so it's a little confusing. So I'm just guessing that these are the mending plates and that these are the clips. 2 clips, so that's my guess. So as you can see, I screwed in one and no hole. You can see it kind of peeking out a tiny bit, like right there. So yeah, I'm gonna have to drill my own hole. So there they are. Had to drill my own holes there for the bottom holes. Got a little sawdust here. There's the drill bit. So yeah, make sure you got a drill and a drill bit set, because these people are going to make you use it. So this piece here arrived with this very damaged corner here, as you can tell. And when I asked for some replacement pieces, they sent replacements for the other pieces, but they sent the wrong piece that was supposed to replace this. So I wrote back to GSR and they're like, oh, you know, that's the bottom piece, so it should be fine. Just go ahead and use that one. So I'm stuck with this. So I put the busted corner bottom piece on, and sure enough, it is on what I think is going to be the front of the cabinet. When I turn it and lift it up, this is going to be the front of the cabinet. So you'd think, oh, just flip it around, right? Just flip it over and put those holes on the bottom, so then it would be in the back, right? But I tried that, and these 3 holes do not line up with those 3 cam locks down there. So the only choice I have is to do it this way, and of course the broken piece is towards the front. And you'll see that sure enough, they do show the holes, and this piece that goes here, right, it's going to go right there. The piece that goes there is this one, and you'll see it's got a little thing there for the other piece that is going to latch into there, and it looks like those holes pretty close match up enough. So that's how that's supposed to go. So I'm putting the pieces on, right? So this is the bottom over here. It's going to stand up on there, and this is going to be the top when it folds up. And I just stuck the front on here, this front piece, and get a load of this. Yes, you are looking at this correctly. They printed it upside down. Yeah, so you'd think, oh, just flip it around and put those holes in the cam locks down there. Just flip it right around, right? Well, turns out the holes on this side don't match the bottom, so it has to go in this way, which means they printed this upside down. Now, what's funny is the back of this piece and the back of the bottom look very similar. They both have 6 holes. When I asked for a replacement to the bottom piece, they accidentally sent me another one of these, printed and everything. So I'm going to go get that, thinking I wouldn't need it, and hopefully this one is printed right side up. Otherwise, neither of them will work. So let's go check. So I brought up the other one, lined up the holes there, see how they line up, come back around, and sure enough, both of these pieces they sent me are upside down. Wow. So I guess I'm gonna have to drill my own hole. I'm gonna have to flip it around and just forego one of these holes that I just won't use. And I guess I'm gonna have to somehow drill my own hole to attach a third cam lock, but I don't know how to do that. Yeah, I don't know how to do these holes here. Alright, so I flipped it around, so now the bottom's over there because it's going to tilt up, and now it'll be right side up, which is great, but you'll see the lines don't match up now on this side. See that? Looks like the two on the ends will line up okay, but the middle one's off. So I'm just going to create, I guess I'm going to try to create a little hole right here so I can just move this piece and attach it here, and then that will go inside. So I'm going to try and drill a little hole so I can move this so it lines up with that. Let's see. Alright, so you'll see I tried to drill another hole and stick the cam lock in there. I've never done anything like this before, so hopefully it works. I don't know if the screw is all the way in or not, but I don't want to strip it by trying to push it. I might have to drill a little farther. Let's see if it goes on. Bolt in there. I tested it out, and sure enough, it now fits. So we're through that. So of course, we got one that lines up, but the other ones don't line up properly, so I'll have to get my drill out again. Alright, so I'm going to try and mount the board to my TV. So this is the 43-inch cabinet, so I've got a 43-inch Insignia TV. But I didn't have the hardware to attach the board to the TV. So as you can see, it's got 4 holes on the back. I took the screws out that came with the TV. But obviously those are too short to go through a 3/4 inch piece of wood and still go through those holes. So I took the screws over to the hardware store and I found a version of them. Here they are. These little short black screws. Those aren't going to cut it, so I needed something longer. And I needed about 1.5 inches to go through the board and the TV. So I got the same size, just longer. These might be too long though, so I got some washers here to kind of fill up the space if I need to, in case the screws are a little too long. And once I put the board on, it's probably going to cover up the inputs over here and the power cord potentially. Probably not the power cord, but the inputs. So I went ahead and plugged those in first before putting it on in case it's too hard to get to them and the board's covering it up. And I saw in one of the Game Room Solutions videos on the audio that it's better to, instead of have your computer plug in directly to the amp, the video said you can get a hum on the audio that way. It's better to plug your computer into the TV and then send the sound from the TV to the amp, and you might not get a hum as much. And you'll see it's got the audio out here from the TV, and then these two will plug into the amp itself. And I think the board is supposed to be the cam lock holes forward. You know, I'm just thinking I should probably put the cam locks in there first before putting this on. So let me do that. I'm going to try and get this attached. Alright, so there it is. I'm probably going to have to loosen them to slide the TV up and down in order to get it positioned just right. But there it is, and sure enough, it did cover up those cords, so I'm glad I plugged those in first. And I put the cam locks on this side facing out, so when it goes into the, slide it into the cabinet, I'll be able to twist it. If I had done it the other way, I probably wouldn't be able to reach them in order to tighten them because they'd be facing the TV. And you see the little spacers I used to fill the gaps because the screws were a little too long. Alright, so I got the speaker boards installed. This is the 43-inch cabinet, so they recommend 6-inch speakers. And the speakers I got are these Boss 6.5-inch speakers. I liked them because it didn't have anything sticking out at the front of the speaker, as sometimes they do. But when it got here, it did stick out a little bit in the front. And that's a problem on here because it isn't concave where the speakers are, it's just flat. So if you have a speaker that has a piece that sticks out in the front, it'll be touching the wood. So you'll see I used a couple nuts here to kind of serve as spacers. I just stacked 2 of them up and put the screw through it. And that gives me a little bit of a gap. So you'll see the speaker's not actually touching. I didn't think I'd need to do that with these speakers, but it still looked like the speaker stuck out a little bit. So I put a couple nuts in there. It was a hassle trying to do that, but it's all I could think of, and it was a couple pieces of hardware I had here at the house, so that's what I did here. You guys can probably come up with something that'll work better for you guys. But I don't have a soldering gun either, so I just bought some speaker wire to go with these speakers, wrapped it around. Make sure you connect the positive side to the positive on the back of the amp, and the negative side to the negative on the back of the amp. You guys can kind of see that over here, right? So just make sure it lines up and it matches. And you should be good to go. This is the back of the board, and you'll probably be opening the back in order to adjust the volume. So I wanted it as close to the back as I could so it's easy to reach the knob. And I also have it dangling off the side so it's easy to just grab the knob. You're not like trying to stick your finger between the knob and the wood. Having it hanging off, I thought, would just make it easier to grab and adjust. And also, it made sense for me to put the speakers on the side where the cam locks are. That's the back. So that the front, it looks like this. If I kind of pull it up here, the speakers are right there, and so this one here. So I hooked up the power connector for the amp, connected it to the TV, turned the TV on, and sure enough, it was working. So I'd recommend testing it out before actually sticking it in your cabinet. So my light strip arrived, and I attached the 2 marquee pieces. And this is how I did it. Hopefully it's not too much and it's going to be too bright. I did the whole roll. But when I ordered it, I didn't realize that it did not come with a power supply. So this arrived, and then I had to order a power supply for it. And this just plugs right into the end of this right here in order to turn on the lights, actually. All right, so I just started here on this side, took it all the way up and around back down. And then I did the same thing back up on the front, looped it around, and just brought it all the way back down, and that was the whole roll. And then I just brought it up on the speaker plug here. I did see on another video where someone put their amp inside of their arcade console so they could access it easier in order to adjust the volume, and I realized that after I installed this, but I'm going to leave it. Since I have an actual TV that I'm using for the screen here, an actual TV, I can actually keep the volume high on this and just adjust the volume on the TV itself. So I actually never have to touch this. So it'll be okay just being left there. But I got the marquee lights set up, a little plug for them. I'm going to have to get a power strip on here to power this stuff, but that should work. And next will be the TV. I held the TV up to the dots, and I lined the TV up right behind the line where the plexi is going to go in front of it. So to have the TV right behind it, I'm going to be on the second to the last dot closest to me, is the way it was positioned for my TV here. But it was a little bit off, so I'm going to have to adjust this and bring the wood up to the left. So I just need to slide the wood up a little bit so it'll be better positioned on here. One thing though, you'll notice that I did the marquee here, or I did the T-molding on the marquee, but you'll notice I have it on the bottom there, and I did that too early. The reason for that is if you're looking on step 3, It says secure the top and bottom pieces with mending plates, right? So I did that. I secured this top piece here and the bottom piece there with the mending plates. And then it says T-mold the top and bottom pieces that hold the marquees so you can cut the T-molding to exact size. Well, having it say top and bottom pieces right after top and bottom pieces made me think it was talking about the ones I just attached the mending plates to. So I ended up, trying to get the T-molding on that piece, but that's not what it meant. If you go past that to step 3, past step 4, and you get to the pictures, you notice it's got the 2 marquee pieces there. So when it says top and bottom, it was referring to those 2 marquee pieces. This picture should have been up here after step 1 to make that a lot clearer, because the language here completely threw me off. And it was after the fact when I realized that part 2 is actually referring to these 2 pieces. And so I got the plexiglass in, and it is pretty bright. I was worried it would be too bright, and it might be too bright, especially if the room is dark. But it definitely stands out once it's in there. Now the way the plexiglass works is you'll get 2 pieces of plastic plexiglass, and the marquee image itself is just printed on a piece of paper, a long piece of paper. So you sandwich that paper in between the 2 plastic marquees here. So you can see the 2 sheets of plastic there. And you just slide it all the way down into there. But I gotta tell you, as I was pushing it in, the 2 pieces of wood kept separating, and it was a really, really tight fit, so it was hard to push it all the way down. But as I was pushing the plexiglass into here, the 2 pieces of wood would get pushed out, and it would come out of the groove. So I had to push it in an inch and then push the pieces of wood back tight. And then I pushed it in and it would spread out, and I'd push it. So it wasn't just a quick slide. It was actually really, really hard to push it down. But inch by inch, I worked it all the way down. And I've got I just had a long extension cord that I brought to use for the cabinet. And I've got the wire for the amp plugged into one side of that extension cord, and then I've got the plug for the lights plugged in on the other side. So hopefully when this is all said and done and I've got the power strip in here, I'm just going to plug this extension cord into the power strip, so when the power strip turns on, it'll turn these things on too. Then I went to Home Depot and got these 2-hole straps here, just a bag of them. I'll probably use these to secure the wiring as I go through. And I just stuck it in there, so when this thing tilts up, they'll just sit in those clasps there. It'll keep the power plugs nice and close, and then the extension cord will just go down into the cabinet and plug into the surge protector I'll be using with all the other components. All right, so I got it closed up, and man, oh man, was it a hassle. So I got the plexiglass for the marquee, the plexiglass and the TV in there. The reason it was such a hassle is there's only 2 cam locks that hold up the TV inside. Let's see if I can actually open one of these here. There we go. So it's only 2 cam locks there at the bottom, and this super heavy TV. And once I tightened the cam locks, it was still super wobbly, and I was afraid it was just going to break there at the bottom. So I had to get someone else to hold this piece the entire time I was assembling everything else, so it wouldn't fall forward or backwards, because it just was too heavy for these 2 little cam locks down here at the bottom. And the plexiglass here on this side, it dropped into the groove on the bottom, but there's no groove for the sides here because it's on its side, but the top and bottom don't have a groove. So once you drop it in here, it just falls forward. It doesn't stay, so someone has to hold that for you too while you're setting up everything else and getting the side piece on. So definitely a 2 or 3 person job depending on how you do it, but someone's going to have to hold the TV and the plexiglass in place while someone else comes and puts the side piece on to secure everything. But it came together, and as you can see inside, it's kind of dark. There's the speakers and amp piece there, the TV piece, and tomorrow I'll keep working on it. I'll just do little by little each day, taking it piece by piece. All right, so I got the other mending plates put on the other side, and I don't know if I lost them or what, but it didn't seem like I had enough screws. So I had to grab some of my own screws that I found and got it on here. But I gotta tell you, so basically you just open up the back door, you lean in, and the holes were not lined up, so I had to drill my own holes and screw them in, but finally got it in. But trying to lift this giant thing was not easy, so you're definitely gonna want some help just flipping it over to the other side. It was very, very heavy. But that's basically the last step here, is getting those mending plates on. Now I just need to set it up and get the trim, the T-molding put on it as the last step. But because it's so huge and heavy, it's really hard to move. So this is the bottom of it. And I ordered some furniture sliders that I'm gonna try and glue and nail to the bottom. I don't know if it'll work, but I'm gonna need to put something on here in order to move this thing around just because it's too big and bulky. All right, so since this thing is super heavy, I needed a way to be able to slide it around, and the wood on the bottom's kind of rough, and I was afraid it was just gonna shred my my carpet as I slid it around. So I bought these furniture sliders. And basically I just got a really strong glue and glued them on, but I needed a way for them to be secure while they dried, so I just put a screw in it to hold it until the glue dried, and then I can take the screw out and hopefully it works. Don't know if it'll work, but I need something in order to move this thing around once I get it finished. So I'll take these screws out. I noticed that when I take the screws out, the plastic comes out a little bit, so I'll probably have to sand the hole down a little, make it nice and smooth. But hopefully these hold, it's secure, and it'll be a great way of actually being able to move this beast of a cabinet because it is extremely heavy. In hindsight, if I had thought of this at the beginning, I would have put these on there and then just put something on top of it to secure it while it dried, while the glue dried, and I wouldn't have had to do the screws. But since I thought of it at the end, in hindsight at the beginning, this would be a great first step to get your base ready. As a nice way of being able to move it around. And they have these for both carpet and hardwood, depending on what you're using. All right, so as you can see, I'm putting the controller console together, and this is definitely the best position to do it. So I attached these pieces to the thinner part where the actual buttons go, and that was after I did the T-molding around the whole thing. And this is the larger 43-inch cab, and I'm actually getting low on the T-molding. I'm worried they might have sent me the amount of T-molding for a 34-inch cab, so hopefully I have enough to cover the rest of the cabinet. But I attached these sides first, the ones that went to the thinner button side, and then you just prop this one up next to it, and you can drill the holes in for the other side, which I'm still doing, but this is probably the best position to have it in. So I got this behemoth finally done, and of course, as you can see, they didn't send me enough T-molding. Close, but not quite, so thanks for that. But I'm pretty sure it's good to go, and it's really easy to slide around with those sliders I put on it. You can just move it around pretty easy, which is nice. So that'll make getting it around a lot easier. Let's plug it in and see how it looks on the other side. So I plugged it in there, and light for the marquee goes on. It's pretty bright. The speaker volume's there, but I'll be adjusting it on the TV. So let's come around. See the side here. Okay, so there's the TV coming on. Not the best lighting here, especially with the TV on, so you can't really see, but retrocade is there, pretty bright. There it goes. And it looks pretty good. It is big. So there it is, and while that's booting up here, a come around to this side. See, I got the side art on it. There. It's looking pretty good. And the sound, so this is just a regular TV, so I can just adjust it here at the, you got the speakers there. What I'm noticing though is with the light on for the marquee, there's a little gap up here at the top between the pieces of wood, and it's shining a light beam across the controller. So hopefully when I have the controls on here, that doesn't mess it up too much. Nice. Pretty good. All right, it's working. All right, we'll keep moving here. So I tried to put the controller console onto the completed cabinet here. But when I went to put it on, you'll notice I had put the T-molding down where the line was because the instructions said to put T-molding everywhere. But it actually kept the console from lining up on the square here. So I'm gonna have to trim off those pieces there at the ends, and hopefully it'll sit nice and flush here. Let's see. Okay, cut that back on both sides. Let's see if it goes on now. All right, so I got it secured on there. Got it on there, let's lift it up. So it was kind of a hassle, but when I cut off the T-molding that was in the way and those edges, I was able to line it up. And I found two little washers. You can see they're not the right size, matching sizes, because they're the only two I had left. It didn't come with washers, and I thought, you know, washers will probably secure it a little bit better. So you just reach your hand inside, and you twist the little nuts to twist them on there. Just be careful not to drop it because it's a pain. You'd have to go all the way around, open the back, and pick it up if you drop it. Thankfully, I didn't. But like I said, I have this on sliders now, so it's actually pretty easy to spin. But this is how it looks open. And it's just nice and secure on there now. And it's going to go with my racing rig that I have here as well. But yeah, just adding to my game room here. And there you have it.